Right, the Dirty Gooners, mate.
Okay.
Your thoughts so far?
Can they win the league? Yes. Right. Will they win the league? Don't know. Right. You'd be a maniac to bet against Man City. Biggest squad, best team, done it before, know how to do it. Billy Fergie's team in the early 2000s, late 90s, just knew after Christmas where they were and what they needed, right?
Yeah.
And just done it while juggling 2 or 3 other competitions. Man City just know what they're doing now. Arsenal will very much need to take it. We're out of the Cup, which is good, the Carling Cup, so it saves us a few games. I'd love us, we're going to top that Champions League group, which means we'll be in the Champions League. And then when you're in that, obviously that is such a dangling carrot for a team like Arsenal that's never won it before. If that comes alive, you probably drop, for me anyway, I would drop the league and go for that. But there's just no guarantee you're going to do it. There's going to be excellent teams in the last 8, last 4. So ideally we do somehow get knocked out in the last 16, the last other quarters, so you can focus more on the run in. Well, City, will still be in the nitty gritty of that. But everything needs to go right for Arsenal if they're going to win the league. Players that they're hoping to play well need to keep playing well. Rice needs to keep continuing to progress. Havertz needs to start scoring. Things like Jesus needs to stay fit. Saka needs to have another great season. Odegaard needs to get fit and stay fit. Saliba needs to stay fit. There's just a lot of needs, right? Whereas City, that if KDB's out at the moment, but yet someone else is going to come in, right? Rodri has been suspended and injured. They still keep winning games. If Haaland gets injured, you've got Alvarez. They just know that they can turn over a different position. But it's been proven when Arsenal are missing key players that they're not the same team, as most clubs are.
Sure.
So we need a lot of luck. But can we win the league? Yes. Am I happy with the start of the season? I'd say yes. I'd say probably 8 out of 10. The Spurs draw should have been a win. Could have been a loss though. The Chelsea draw should have been a loss, but was a draw. So there you go. You take the 2 points out of those 2 games. And we beat City, which was an amazing thing, both mentally and for the league.
Yeah.
So that's great. City it looks like it could be one of 4 or 5 clubs. Probably more likely one of 3. It'd be City, Liverpool or Arsenal, I think. I think Spurs will fall down. Chelsea are not quite there and Man U aren't quite there. So I think as far as squad capability and all that and injuries and stuff, I think it's those 3. Probably, if I'm being honest, it'll be City, Arsenal, Liverpool. But
those are the top 3. I think you had Chelsea up there.
I had Chelsea 4th, I think. I think Chelsea can still get 4th, by the way. We'll get to that. But I think they can still get 4th. They've scored 8 goals in the last 2 weeks against Spurs and City. So we'll see. But yeah, Arsenal pretty happy, but could they have done better? Yep, definitely.
And I assume, mate, what you're saying there is you definitely take a Champions League over a Prem, right?
100%. But I don't think they're anywhere near capable of winning that. I think.
No, of course they are, mate.
They're not.
The thing with the Champions League, what people forget to remember is Liverpool played Villarreal in the semi-final. You can often get to a stage in that competition by playing.
The year Arsenal made the final and lost to Barcelona, we played Villarreal in the semi-final. Then it's a bit of a detrimental thing to say to Villarreal.
But I mean,
have won European trophies.
You've had Monaco and
Monaco, Porto. But I mean,
so,
that was 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
But there's many instances. I mean, I dare say when Real Madrid won La Decima, they had a really easy run into the final.
Yeah, but then they won it last year with the hardest run in. 2 years ago, sorry, because City won last year.
Yeah, that's where it took my captain. I mean, well, look,
you need to, and that was an easy draw. Like all the best teams were one set to the draw.
Milan? Was it Spurs should have gone in?
They lost in the last 16. Then that side just opened up completely. Like AC Milan played Benfica, then Napoli played Inter, and then Inter played AC. And it was an easy side.
You haven't won it yet, right? So I just think, look. All I'm saying is, if you have an easier draw,
I think
you need to
the juggernauts of Europe, the Man Cities, the Reals, the Barcelonas, and the Bayern Munich. A lot of them are just set up. They know how to do it. They know how to be good in March, April, May. Right? Arsenal again. They put so much in at the start of the season of just keeping up with Man City. Right?
I believe that Prem's harder to win. Right, that's my personal opinion.
We'll see. Listen, I would take either. I'd be over the moon with either. It makes you an elite club if you get any of them. And it's been a long time, 20 years since we won the league. We've never won the Champions League, so I'd bite your hand off right now, both hands, right? For either. I'd probably even just take an FA Cup second. The most important thing is we're relevant again. After probably since Wenger left, or even the last few years of Wenger, there was maybe about a 10-year period where we haven't been relevant, right? Yeah. Now we're in the big top. We're very much one of the big 4 again, and we're in the hunt for trophies. So that's important.
The big issue for Arsenal is after what was a great season last year, I really think Arteta's fucked himself because he's done is he's really overcomplicated the situation.
The goalkeeper.
2 signings. Havertz and a goalkeeper. That's 100 million plus. It's probably 110.
Well, Raya, just a loan. He's just a loan. Haven't bought him. We haven't bought him from Brentford. No,
you spent 40 million on him.
No, we didn't. He's a loan, and we buy him next year if we want to. He's a loan. He's not.
How much have you paid for a loan?
Nothing.
Nothing
yet. Google it right now. It's 30 million next year if we want him.
There's got to be a buy-in clause because they're not going to give you a goalkeeper.
We're on a podcast.
Well,
Google it later.
I bet you.
How much you bet that we've signed him or that he's on loan?
They wanted 40 million for him, so they've definitely either signed him or paying a fee. But what I think is that
Arsenal have completed the signing of goalkeeper David Raya from Brentford on a season-long loan.
For how much?
Initial fee of 3 million.
3 million, okay.
Right, with an obligation to pay the extra 27 million.
Oh, so you bought him.
No.
It's an obligation. It's not a.
Yeah, but we'll buy him next year. What I'm saying, we've spent 3 million on him this year. So money-wise, it's not a big deal. Squad-wise, it's a big deal because you had the Golden Gloves goalkeeper, Team of the Year goalkeeper, now sitting twiddling his thumbs.
Only the accountant needs to worry about when the money's coming and going.
Okay.
Now, it's the season next. But what you've got is...
This is obligation. This isn't guaranteed obligation. You can still say no.
Come on. Obligated. You're not selling your best player for free, basically, or for 3 million. They wanted 40 million for him, so you got him for 10 million less. But no one in the Premier League is signing Havertz.
No,
and the fact that they signed him for 67 million, I just thought you're putting. If Pep had done it with a stable team, he doesn't work out like a Calvin Phillips. He drifts under the radar to a degree.
Yeah.
With Arsenal, that are really looking, they're the team that is closest outside of what Liverpool have done over recent years, but building a team that looks so close to doing it just seems like such a risk not worth taking, especially the money. Had you got him for 10, 15 million?
You can't get him for 10, 15. He was 77 at Chelsea, and they wanted some of the money back. Now, I told you I saw him at Ibrox a few years ago for Leverkusen, and he looked world class at 18, right? And as when Chelsea signed him, I said, he's going to be a superstar. I still believe he has the potential to be a superstar, world beater. And also, when you're looking at that Arsenal team of last year, you don't just find players that are going to put Martinelli out of a position, are going to put Saka out of a position, put Odegaard out of a position. You're going to have to spend 60, 70 million on a squad player that's going to be good enough of just even coming in for those guys as a sub.
We don't know where he is, where he's sitting.
I mean, that's Arteta's job to find that, right?
Yeah, I think he's.
I definitely agree we didn't need the headache of Raya. I think you buy a clear number 2 and keep Ramsdale. I don't think Raya's any better. I actually think he's worse.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's got that one right. Maybe it's the Spanish connection. Maybe it's the playing out from the back. I'm doing the inverted commas for those on podcast.
Yeah.
I don't think he's better, and I think it has caused a headache. It's caused internal stuff because obviously Ramsdale's popular in the dressing room as well. He's one of the big. If you saw the documentary, he's one of the big personalities in that dressing room.
And when you think about
it was an unnecessary move.
Because if you
think the Havertz one, I still think I would have took him for that price, and I still think the potential is still so young. He's got a Champions League winners medal.
Absolutely,
and it strengthens the squad.
That doesn't, because he's not good enough.
Okay.
For me, I don't see any difference between a Smith Rowe and him. When you think about, but an expensive one, when you think about Raya and Havertz, and you think about...
He's no Raya of sunshine.
Exactly. Well, he's certainly not a Raya of light either. Yeah. When you think about the two combined, when you buy a striker for that, well, again, I mean, name a world-class striker that was available, right? Kane went to Bayern Munich, over his dead body, he's going to Arsenal, right? Say you bought Watkins.
Osimhen is still not going anywhere. Mbappe's still not going anywhere. You paid 80 for the 19-year-old that scored 7 goals last year. Just hear me.
Watkins.
Watkins isn't available. They're trying to get Watkins. They're trying to get Tony. Those guys, everyone will want them again, and they'll go for 100 million. Those two players, right? But you're right. No, they should have maybe kept the powder dry and got a striker. But I still think they'll have 100 million for a striker next year. They seem to, the board seems to be a lot better than the Glazers. They seem to be more invested now that they want Arsenal to win. They've won. All their franchises have won a trophy in the last 3 years, apart from Arsenal.
Yeah.
Right? So it looks like it's almost like one of those things where they need Arsenal to win.
Havertz can't drift under the radar.
They own the Nuggets?
Havertz is not going to drift under the radar, is what I'm saying. So they're going to have to try and make it work.
I still think he will. I still think he will. I think he'll finish the season on 10, 15 goals. He might score the winner in a really important game, and everyone's...
that's what he's lived on.
The Champions League winning goal.
1 goal for 70 million.
Would you not swap everything to score the winner in the Champions League final? I think I would.
Yeah,
I give up everything for that.
I wouldn't be signing that player. I'm very good as a fan, but
fair enough.
We'll move on.
Fair enough.
Arsenal's still in it. I certainly still believe they are still in it, but I just think that Arteta's created
problems he didn't need to. Yeah, and I agree with that 100% as well. There are problems he didn't need.
Yeah. You want to be more established, more stable. 2 years on, put it this way, an Arsenal that's won a league, 2 years on, they're looking like the new City. They're much more stable.
Yep.
They then go and buy Havertz to go, let's see if we can make this work, rather than we're still trying to get up.
It might have been Arteta's ego going, I can mould this guy, I can make him better. 100%. But he's failed at Chelsea, I'll make him great. It might have been that, and you're right. Anyway, moving on, let's go Spurs. So, Ange Postecoglou, we talked about him
in
the last podcast.
What a man.
Amazing man, Aussie legend, and his viral videos about when he talks about mental health and he talks about just being a normal guy, when he talks about VAR, when he talks about all these other things, everyone likes him, right? I think even the most staunch Rangers fan or staunch Arsenal fan or staunch New Zealand fan, any opposing person to Ange's clubs or nationality would still say he's a great guy, right? Great human being. I wish him well. I hope he does really well. He's came in and like I said, he said an almost perfect start. Everyone, losing Harry Kane, I don't think anyone expected them not to be anywhere in the top 10, to be honest. I think we all expected them to drop real down because they were terrible last year and Kane scored 30 Premier League goals.
Yeah.
So we were expecting disastrous stuff. And instead we've had miracles, right? They've looked the best team. They're one of the best to watch. They've scored the most goals. They've been fantastic. However, as everyone predicted, their squad is paper thin. Their first 11's up there with most.
Yeah.
And he's got them playing really great football. And his signings, Edogie and Van de Ven, look great. But now Van de Ven's out for 3 months. Madison's out till the new year. Richarlison's had problems with injuries. They're running on fumes. Well, again, I don't think he is, but he's injured. So let's just say that, right? So let's not argue on whether he's good or not. He's injured. So their squad is paper thin. So he will need to go to the well, which is probably the driest well in the Premiership, Daniel Levy, and say, can you give me 100 million? Can you give me some of that Kane cash that we can buy some players in January?
Yeah.
And even though he's done such a good start, I just don't think he'll get that help.
Well, he'll have a lot more pull.
He's got all the pull in the world now. But if Daniel Levy had Pep Guardiola, right, he wouldn't give him 100 million in January, right? He thinks it's his own money, right? He thinks he gets to keep the change. So I think it'll be tough for Ange. But if anyone can do it, he can. And like I said, still a pass for Ange this year is top 6, really, because they were 9th last year and they've lost Kane, right? So if they were 8th, 7th or 6th, they're still better than last year without the star talisman.
Yeah.
So he's got actually quite a decent bit of leeway. Now, if they go and spend 100, say they go buy Osimhen as a replacement for Kane in January, the pressure's back on, right? It's, well, we've given you a Kane replacement. Go win us something, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I mean, they've been great to watch. They've been great for the Prem, and it's upset the apple cart as far as your big four and all that stuff. Because
it's funny because he experienced the same thing he did in Scotland initially, which is the what's an Aussie doing, talking football, strange accent.
Who's this guy? Yeah, Postecoglou.
Right. Why do you keep saying mate after every third word?
Yeah. What's Yenar?
Yeah, but I think if anything, I dare say he's certainly mature enough, and this opportunity's come far later than it should have in his career. I dare say he should probably just keep his feet on the ground because I think he's got so many people on side. If anything, what you
his feet are very much on the ground. That's why he's successful.
And that's why
his feet were on the ground at Celtic. His feet were on the ground at Yokohama. His feet were on the ground when he won the Asian
Cup for Australia. He just needs to keep it there because
he can end up Real Madrid manager if he keeps going on the trajectory he's going on, right? Which is the pinnacle.
The rumours were that City were eyeing him as petrol.
And again, he deserves it if he gets the chance, right? He probably needs to do a bit more with Spurs. But anyway, the trajectory's there. The attitude's there.
I think Spurs again, realistic.
If they fall off a cliff, and end up in the bottom half of the league, then we'll be changing our tune. But again, no one could have expected the start they got. But again, as predicted, and I hate when predictions are right because I always want them to be wrong. But everyone did say the squad's paper thin, a couple of injuries and they'll start falling off a cliff. A couple of injuries now, and they are looking very, very average. So we'll see what happens. And like I said, as an Arsenal fan, I'm not wishing them well, but I do like to see Ange overachieving. So well done to him.
Liverpool City this weekend, mate. Early game after the international break.
Is it Anfield or?
It is at City.
Is it City? Right, okay, well, I'll be taking City. I'll take City to win that 3-1. I think Liverpool will get a goal. I think Haaland's supposed to be injured, but of course he'll be fit. He's a bit like the old days where you just don't want to play for your shitty national team. So I think he'll be fit. He'll score 2 and it'll be 3-1. And Núñez will miss a couple of stonewall chances, and everyone will be going, "Oh, if only he could finish, what a striker he would be."
I've got a cheeky. I'll take a draw. Had it been at Liverpool,
because you like them, because you love them both, you want them both to do well, get a point each.
Dirty bastards. But I think the team that can expose Pep, and obviously this is me trying to talk tactics versus Pep Guardiola, which obviously makes sense. But how he brings a Stones or a Kanji into midfield. I think if Liverpool can get quick turnover ball and spread it wide to a Luis Diaz if he's playing, or a Salah with pace, the quick out ball which Liverpool are prone to do, I think they could create a few issues.
Yeah.
So it's always
if Liverpool have their shooting boots on, they can win this game.
But it's always
right? But they seem to miss a lot of chances, whereas I think City create and City miss a lot of chances, but City create 5 times more chances than every other club.
Yeah.
Right. So when you create that many, you will score a few.
When you've got an international break and so many players coming back, always fun. That first game, and typically it's the best teams or some of the big teams because of the TV rights and the like. People aren't in the same mold, so you're not going to necessarily find it as slick a game as you should do.
Well, and again, that's wrong that the Premier picked that as the early kickoff, because Liverpool, Man City over the last 5 years, the Klopp-Pep thing has been the best rivalry. It's been the best rivalry. There's been some ding-dong games, the Salah hat-trick in the Champions League, things like that. There's been some absolute classic games. They're the two, have been over the last 5 years, the two best teams. To put them as the early kick-off, I don't care how much money you're getting for it, it's wrong, right? Yeah. I mean, that should be Luton, fucking Sheffield United, I think, or whoever it is that played. Give them the quick turnaround, right?
Yeah.
Give your star players, that should be 4 p.m. on a Sunday, right? That should be your stud game.
Yeah, I think that's obviously down to TV rights, mate.
But why would you want it on I mean, surely the TV rights, the Super Sunday's your big game.
Well, they'll have a different game on at that point, but obviously what they want to do is, these guys are typically smarter than us, but I do agree.
Typically.
I think most of the time they're smarter than us. However, I do agree that what we're going to lose is the quality of the game not being quite there, and so that's where I think, where you might think, this is Stonewall City. Potentially, I think Liverpool will certainly be.
I think it's a tough game for Liverpool. I think it's a tough game for anyone to go to City. And that's why I asked if it was at Anfield, I'd probably say Liverpool might sneak it. But snake it. But yeah, if it's at City, I'm going to go 3-1 City.
3-1, I'll go 2 each. We'll do Shuey, all right?
Yeah, closest wins.
Yeah.
AKA if City win anyway whatsoever, I win. If it's a draw, it doesn't matter if it's 0-0, ever, right, then you win. Right?
Or if Liverpool win, I think I'm closest, aren't I?
Yeah, well, that's closer, yeah.
So draw is actually not a bad result.
Yeah, so it's using their noggin.
Newcastle, or we shouldn't just say Newcastle, but I think down to the PIF, the
what'd you call me? PIF?
The Saudi Arabian Investment Fund, or public fund as it's known.
Yeah.
I think obviously most people are sort of pointing fingers at Newcastle as in particular, but
eight teams voted against it, right?
Why would they vote against it?
Well, you look at the 8 teams, Man City and Chelsea were 2 of them, and they do the exact same things. Chelsea own different clubs.
Yeah.
I have, over the last 10, 15 years, over 200 million worth of talent out on loan, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to lose that opportunity. Man City own Melbourne City, they own New York City, right? They own multiple clubs, right? It would be detrimental to them in the long term if they vote against that. Wolves, again, as an international business who do a lot of dodgy dealings with Portugal clubs and stuff like that, right? It'd be wrong of them, and probably the Saudis now as well. I was surprised at the kind of young, the Burnleys and the Sheffield Uniteds, but I think they've either been backhanded something, right, to get their votes from the richest clubs. But again, for me, it's not necessarily a real bad decision, right? But it's the money talks again, and money talks, right? Now, if Newcastle want now, they can sign Cristiano Ronaldo, Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino, the boy Neves, who they're probably definitely going to get. I think that's the thing that everyone's been talking about. That signing is pretty much nailed on, right? They can sign all of those players tomorrow now, right, for the rest of the season on loan. But
is that the Saudi League over?
It's not the Saudi League over at all, no, because they've got more money than God, so they'll just keep buying players. They'll go back to the Saudi League next year and they'll keep getting their money. But what I'm saying is, I'm just using examples. Benzema's another one. Now that that's been allowed, Newcastle can sign all of those players. And why would they go and loan back to other clubs other than Newcastle? Because Newcastle's owned by...
Well, 2 things. Does that not totally... and don't get me wrong, I think the Saudi League's a joke anyway, but it destroys any credibility of the Saudi League. but B, if you think about when Beckham was at LA Galaxy, he used to go during the off-season.
Yeah, AC Milan, PSG, all that stuff. Yeah. Also,
I thought it might be more of a off-season.
It could
3
be.
months.
It could be.
So,
could be, but what I'm saying is whether it's detrimental to the Saudi League is irrelevant for this purpose of the EPL.
Yeah, sure.
What it is a huge advantage to a club like Newcastle who own the rights to all those players realistically now because they're owned by the same government, right?
Yeah.
So they can go they could realistically cherry pick every one of the best players in Saudi League and go, right, we've got injuries to such and such, or let's now dominate the Champions League this year. Cristiano Ronaldo goes, Newcastle's made it in the quarterfinals. I'd love another Champions League. Like, look, sign me.
And even
it's allowed.
And even the rumours of Al Nassr joining that. Mate,
yeah.
Honestly, football. I guess,
but anyway, like I said, I think it's a slap in the face for small clubs and for 100%. Honesty in the world. But at the same point, it's another guarantee that money talks, and the fact that it wasn't even close. Right, it was almost half. Right, voted against it. So that tells you that money talks. So good luck. And the saddest thing is that Newcastle's everyone's second favourite team because they've never won shit, right? No, but they will slowly turn into the devil, right? And everyone will start hating them, which is a shame because like I said, I have a real soft spot for Newcastle, as most people do.
100%. I've texted a lot of guys saying.
You've always texted a lot of guys. Normally on a Friday night. What are you doing?
You up?
It's in it.
No, it's a case of is it worth the sort of media and political sort of drama
to win a trophy, and everyone will go,
mate,
I would suck a dick to get a fucking Champions League.
You're not guaranteed anything.
Not me, but Newcastle fans.
Well, okay. So what did you do to me last night?
Right. Moving on. Number nine. Chelsea, right? So we talked briefly earlier. I think I tipped it would be in the top 4. In fact, I know quite clearly I tipped it would be in the top 4, and it looked like the worst bet of all time for first 8 games of the season. To me, and I may be wrong, it looks like they've turned the page. 8 goals against Spurs and City in the last 2 games. Okay, they only got 4 points, but 8 goals against Spurs and City is a huge game changer for me because the problem they had is they couldn't score goals. Right. Granted, I think Spurs were at 10 men after about 5 minutes and 9 men for the game, and good old Andrews still playing 3 up top.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about an eye test. Yeah, when you look at a result and you phone the next day and you go, Jesus, Chelsea.
40 City was one of the best games I've ever seen, and Chelsea were the better team. Well, so not only was it 4 each, they should have won that game.
That's the one result they can rest on, right? But I think the reality for me, I've said it before, Bowley and sort of is a Clear Lake or Silver Lake.
But you're a big Poch fan.
I'm a big Poch fan, but the reality is you've signed guys that are all sub 23 years old. You've signed 1 million of them. You've put,
literally 1 million.
Yeah. You've put Chelsea will not win the Premier League in the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh, that's a huge statement.
I can guarantee
it's a huge statement. It's a huge statement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Guarantee you.
Okay.
They will not.
You heard it here first, guys. Butch was.
They will not win the Premier League in the next 3 to 5 years.
I'm just going to check the date. I think it's 23rd of November, 2023. He's saying they won't win it for the next 4 years. So
put that one in your book.
If Chelsea have won the league between now and the 23rd of November 2027, Butch needs to what?
Well, I'll buy anyone a drink and I'll do...
Anyone that's ever listened to this podcast, that's going to cost you about 10.
All 3 of you.
Right. Okay, so Chelsea, you have them still not making the top 4.
Definitely not. I think, look, I really like Poch. They'll be more competitive. They'll find their feet, but this will be a team that still has not got a striker. Didier Drogba.
I think when Nkunku's coming back, and that's I've seen him live as well. He's a quality player. He's in the mold of Jesus, in the mold of Jesus, and the fact that he is injury prone. But he brings the not Jesus Christ, not Jesus Christ. Gabriel Jesus, right? He's in that mold, but a better finisher than him. But and a bit like Kane, he brings the midfield into play really well. He's a hold-up player, but he's a really good finisher. I like him, but he's always injured. So yeah, we'll see how Chelsea get on with him. The fact that I picked Chelsea to be in the top 4, I'm probably more hoping that they get it right, just for me being right. But I have definitely seen enough in the last 3 or 4 weeks to say that they are just as good as the top 4.
I think if you put Caicedo into a City or just not so much City. Let's take City out of it. Just if you
put you in a City team, you still win the Champions League.
If you went to Liverpool and spent 10 years at Liverpool, I'd say Caicedo would go down as one of the Premier League all-time greats.
So why can't they do it at Chelsea then?
Well, I'm not saying you can't do it, but they need to have the stability. Poch needs to be there for the longer term. They're not going to win a Premier League anytime soon.
Well, this idea of Abramovich, would you rather have the Glazers or Bowley?
Well, probably Bowley, yeah. But
I'm saying at least he's spending right now. He's gone completely bananas.
Yeah, but
he thinks it's Championship manager, and he thinks it's like a never-ending pit of money. And that time,
but they're not the same team. That's all I'm referring to.
No, you're right. But at least he is spending the cash, right? And if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd rather be a Chelsea fan than a Man United fan right now, because it's excitement of those signings, and when you're getting linked to everyone, you're actually going, "Oh, we don't need them." But as Man U's going, "Please let it be true."
If he's over 24, you can just roll it off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I've got my son's 4 at the moment, and but he scored 2 goals last season. So Bowley, if you're watching. He's only looking for $1 million at the moment.
We're willing to talk.
Yeah, I'm only looking for $1 million for Leo. And his name's Leo, so he's got good
Leo.
Right, okay, moving on. There's only been 3 0-0 draws this season, and that's because I always bet 0-0 draws. So it's my fault, because my gambling jinx.
Yeah.
There's only been 3 0-0 draws this season, which is a record lot, and it's absolutely mind-boggling when you think we're 12 weeks into the season. There's 10 games a week, so let's call it 120 games. And there's only been 3 0-0 draws. There's been very little draws as well. There's been a lot less draws than usual. Now, is it because of VAR, or is it because of this extra injury time being played? And also, there's been a record number of injuries. Is this because of all the extra time we're playing, or is this because we had a World Cup in November? Tell me, Pooch, in your humble expert opinion, why are we not seeing more draws, and why are we seeing so many injuries?
Well, I think the obvious one around the lack of nil-each draws is purely down to the extra time. For me, that's the biggest factor.
10 minutes extra each week. Yeah.
When you've got that many breakages between play, what you're allowing teams to do is obviously regroup as far as energy levels.
Yep. Recover, reset, get information. Yep.
Coach gets in the ear and goes, all right, last 10 minutes, this is what we're doing. We're swapping things up. We're doing this, and it's hell for leather. How many goals have been scored post 90 minutes?
Oh, loads. Yeah,
right?
Loads.
So for me,
so there's your now draw gone whenever there's a goal, but also there's your draw gone, because when you've got your little team like your Sheffield United or your Luton or whatever holding on to the doors, right, and your bigger team, your United or your Arsenal or your Man City, but like Man City scored a winner against Sheffield United in the last minute as well. Man U's got 4 or 5 this season, last minute winners. Arsenal have got loads as well. But when you're a fitter, stronger team, the last thing you need is an extra 5-10 minutes, right? Because you're praying that you're time wasting as much as you can. So that's definitely a big factor. But the injuries as well, is that because we're playing 10 minutes extra, we're overworking the players, or is it because we had a World Cup bang smack in the middle of the season last year, so there's been very little recovery from that kind of high intensity for some of the superstars? Like KDB's out. You look at maybe the top 20 players in the world, I think 50, that's too much. 5 of them are out for long-term injuries at the moment.
I just think there's always been too much football, but like any sport, if they can bleed players dry, ultimately,
they're not bleeding players dry, because these guys are getting paid $250,000 a week, right? And it's at the cost. It's at the cost of us, right? They're working them to the bone. But if you paid me $250,000 a week, you better believe I won't even sleep. I just take caffeine pills.
Well, then you're getting injured, right? So
you die.
The idea is, it doesn't matter whether you're getting paid £1,000 a week or $300,000 a week. If you increase the amount of games you're going to play over a shorter time span.
Yep.
And the worst thing about it is, at the start of the year, I couldn't have been. But we spoke about Varane earlier. I thought it was such a poignant message that you can't chat. They want to clamp down the abuse to the refs. Totally get with that, but they want to introduce all this extra time, do this, do that. It's like, so you want to suck the emotion out of the game, out of the players. You want them to run more, do this, do that, but yet they can't express themselves, and there's some kind of sort of robot.
Yeah,
it is completely fucking diabolical how these players are treated and how the game. The
excuse is, and this is wrong, but the excuse is, well, we pay you X, Y, Z. You dance, puppet dance, and that's not fair. You're right. There's human rules need to come in and go. Just because you make 50 million a year, you make 30 million a year, you shouldn't be bled till you blow your brains out. You know what I mean? But I agree with that.
Sometimes the quantity.
There's a couple of quick solutions I think that fix this. Right now, I definitely do agree with the injury time being added on, because there's too much stoppage in football, right?
And we spoke about VAR.
But I think a stop clock, right, would be better, right? And make it a 60-minute game but stop clock, right? That you have in basketball, you have American football, right? So you get 60 minutes guaranteed football, right? I think they used to average about 55, they said, between all the stoppages, right? Yeah. So 60 minutes, right? But it's a stop clock. Goes out for a throw, goes out for a corner, goes out for a sub, timeout, all that stuff, right? Booking, stop, right? But 60 minutes of play. We'll all see 60 minutes of play. Now, the game you might end up being there for 120 minutes if it's a stoppage type of game. But every single team, every single game will go for 60 minutes of stoppage of game. It might help them for fitness. It might help them for recovery. The other thing is, from the Premiership point of view, get rid of the Carling Cup. It's not needed, right? No one really cares about winning it unless you're going for a treble or a quadruple, right? So there's loads of games that you just don't need. Now, have it for the Championship down, and the winner of that gets into Europe or something, make it cool that way. Yeah. But or maybe even from the bottom 10 and the top 10 don't need it. Or you can even volunteer to be in it or not, right?
I agree with that.
But I think if you chop that out, it's a lot less games. And internationals should be at the players. You shouldn't be demanded to show up if you get picked to play for England or you picked for Scotland, right? You should go, I've got too much on at the moment. I'm playing for Man United, we're in 4 trophies. It's at the end of the season. I'm not going to show up.
There should never be friendlies.
But there's far too many international games, right? For a start, right? The Nations League, all these extra friendlies now. There's no need for them, but it should be your choice, right? Because you don't get paid, and everyone says, 3 lines on a shot, all that stuff. You want to play for your country. Let's be honest. It's more important to play for your club in the Champions League final than it is to play in a friendly for England or Scotland, right? Yeah. So they should have the choice that if you did all that, I think there'd be less injuries. But anyway, that is my sixpence on the subject.
Yeah, look, I definitely, mate. But just remember, when you got fans, for instance, that are flying in or out or going somewhere on a Wednesday night to the other end of the country, right? And the game starts at 8 p.m. and it goes on for another 35 minutes.
And they've still got to get back home.
You've still got to go 2 hours to get back home. So dedicated fans, it's a joke, mate. They've got to sort that out. Just on a side note, before we wrap up the Prem, I had Wolves going down the season. Gary O'Neill,
he's been brilliant. He's been brilliant.
Don't get me wrong, they can still go down.
I still think manager of the year so far is Sean Dyche at Everton. That squad is the worst squad in the Prem, including Luton, including Sheffield United. That squad is dog shit. They've now got a 10-point deficit, and I still actually think they'll stay up. That's the measure of the man and the measure of how great a manager he is and how the attitude and the vibe.
He's had a season, right?
He's had a season, but listen, I think O'Neill's up there as well. He shouldn't have got sacked at Bournemouth. It was a stupid decision, and Bournemouth are now a worse team because of it.
Yeah.
Wolves, again, because of that fair play thing, they've shut the bed and gone, we don't want to lose 10 points. They've sold all the best players. They never sold anyone, and they lost a really good manager in Lopetegui. He's a quality coach.
The beat Spurs.
But they've won a watch by getting O'Neill. So I agree with your point on that. He's a great coach. For me, 12 weeks in, I've got Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley going down. I've got 3 that came up, all going down.
Yeah, you had I think Everton, yours.
I originally had Everton. You had Wolves. We both had Burnley making it, but they've been terrible. They're playing far too attacking for the Prem. He's going to go.
Time to turn around.
There is, but he's going to fall on his sword. He's not playing defensive enough. I mean, they look so weak at the back, and they're not scoring the goals that they were scoring in the Championship. Yeah. He wants to play like Pep with part-time players, right? So he'll need to change his mind, or it won't happen.
Lovely. Well, that wraps up the Prem.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Cheers for listening.
To the NBA next.
Hello. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Hello, everyone. We are back with your regular hosts, Pooch, joined by the one and only GMAC. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I got soaked in the rain, so I had to take off what I was wearing and put on the old Orlando Pirates. Go the Pirates.
The famous Bucks.
Go the Pirates. Go the Bucks.
Had a big win in the Soweto derby recently, mate, so you're more than welcome to wear that.
Well, I got a bit so wet in the rain there, so it makes sense. Well, I got so wet.
It's not like my bloody Sonny. He only wants to wear his United shirt the day after they've had an absolute beating.
Yeah, and it's got Ronaldo 7 on the back.
I'm like, for fuck's sake, mate. You can't wear that today. But anyway, we will be kicking off this episode. We'll be rattling through a few interesting subjects or sports today, but we'll be kicking off with the Prem.
EPL.
First off, a tribute, what might seem sort of totally insignificant from us here, but certainly I know as far as my old man, a big hero of his is Sir Bobby Charlton. I almost said Sir Bobby Robson there. Sir Bobby Charlton, an absolute legend of not only English football, but the game itself. Passed away 758 games for Man U.
I was going to say 750 years old. I was like, Jesus Christ, that needs a tribute.
But think about it. You know, we complain more about games now, right? The volume of games.
Mm-hmm.
He played for a couple of other teams before joining United. 758 games for United. When you consider the state of the pitches, 249 goals.
But I mean,
they're not tap-ins, mate. These are belters.
He was a midfielder that played as a striker, like he striking goals, but he's actually a midfielder. But he looked like a grandpa, right? Like even when he was like 25. Yeah. So like he did have a decent longevity career, which is why he got so many games and has so many good records. But he looked about 50 when he was 25, which makes people think, Jesus, like how old was he?
But he glided across the pitch. I mean, he looks, and he is. He's not got an incredibly large stature, but
he was Scholes before Scholes.
Yeah, but when
he was
a
box-to-box midfielder, but he played 10 for England, and he could have played up front, but he was a midfielder that scored goals. He scored like
when you think about goals. How heavy I don't know if you've ever felt those balls. I mean, the modern day ball now is
plenty of balls.
Of course, you did back in the bedroom, right? The balls are so heavy, and you consider how many strikes he's hit from 30-odd yards out, top corner, top bins, absolute power. I mean, it's between technique and power. It's incredible. So 758 games for United, 249 goals, was the leading scorer until Wayne Rooney. He was the leading scorer for England from midfield until Wayne Rooney again. And obviously Rooney's been gazumped by Kane. World Cup winner 1966, won the Ballon d'Or in 1966, won the European Cup, which is now the Champions League in 68 with United. After surviving the Munich plane crash and reviving United and forming what was known as the Holy Trinity at Manchester United with Dennis Law and George Best. I dare say rest in peace sounds a bit trivial from us, mate, but what a player.
Brilliant player. And I think most people that are English or have played the game would say he's England's greatest ever player.
Yeah.
The greatest ever English player then, if not even just the England's greatest ever player, AK for internationals, but the greatest player ever to be English and play football is probably Sir Bobby. There's a few coming through at the moment that might take that mantle in the future. Bellingham, Kane, someone like that. When their career's over, we'll compare the trophies and compare the lifestyles. But what he did, and everything he did was a first. It was the first European Cup for Man United. It was the first World Cup for England, or the only World Cup still for England. He was a real trendsetter in a time where there was so many brilliant Germans, so many brilliant Dutch, brilliant Brazilians. He was up there, if not better than most of them for England, and a real talisman for United and England. And anyone that ever met him said such a down-to-earth gentleman.
100%.
And again, back in the day, you were working class, right? You were getting paid pennies. There was no £1 million a week footballers, right?
Yeah.
He would have been one of them if he was today's generation.
Easily.
But I think that kept him grounded, and it's what kept him his whole career, whole life in the Man U stands, training. There's a famous thing that there was a kind of a tribute from Rio and Scholes on BT the other day, and it was like when he was 63, still out training with the guys before the Barcelona Champions League game, and he's getting stuck in and playing balls and pinging them. And again, he looks the same age he did at 25 because he's still got the same comb over. He's always looked old. He always looked like a grandpa.
His movement, I really like.
I've never met anyone, I never saw anyone speak of him in ill, right? And no one's ever said he was an asshole or he was a bit of a dirty player or anything like that. He was just a real gentleman on and off the park, and it's a sad day for football, a sad day for English football anyway.
It reminded me, I mean, the sort of one that cut deep was the old typical. It's that saying that don't make them like they used to, and that certainly applies to him. When his brother was at the BBC awards and he won the Lifetime Achievement Award, and his brother said he's the best footballer I've ever seen, and then he said, and he's my brother. It's that old cold British. You don't hug your brother back then and all the rest of it. I mean, you could just see the emotions. One of those. Where everyone just has to take a breath. But we've lost a great.
Hard for a brother to say that as well. You know that you have a brother. I have three.
Yeah, but
but what I'm saying is, it's hard to say my brother's the best because everyone thinks growing up that they're the best in the family, or at least equal with everyone, right?
Yeah.
But they were both professionals, they're both World Cup winners. But it's a nice tribute from a hard man like Jack.
Yeah.
It's a nice tribute. But it's a shame. But moving on, R.I.P. Sir Bobby. We'll move on to the next one, which is the complete opposite from what was a nice tribute to an amazing man to probably something that no one in the world likes at the moment, which is VAR. And the crowd says ball selector. VAR, right? Why are there issues? I'll start with you. Why are there issues?
Well, ultimately, I think we're sort of talking off air, mate, and very similar to rugby. Ultimately, VAR is the ultimate referee on the pitch, which is not the way the sport or the game should happen. What we want is the referee to manage the game and VAR to ultimately just distinguish a tight decision either way. The tight decision should purely be... Now, goal line technology is something else that's always been without question and operates 100% correctly, and the results that comes back very quickly. The fact that we have to sit around for 10 minutes to draw a line to see if someone's arm's offside or not, it should literally be very close. And if it is too tight, the attacker should get the rub of the green, should we say? What we want to do is...
We want to see more goals, right? We don't want to see 0-0 draws, right?
VAR are trying to find ways
unless it's clear and obvious, let it go.
VAR are trying to find ways not to give a goal.
Yeah.
Right? So we sit around for 10 minutes, then the ref goes in. What does he see? He sees Rashford against Copenhagen defending the ball with a player coming in behind him who puts his foot down, and Rashford stands on his foot, and that's what he sees, and he's given... Now, these guys haven't played football. I can guarantee you that, because anyone that's played football, football to semi-pro to professional, knows exactly what he's doing.
They're also given they're given strict lines. They read their guidebook and they follow their guidebook, right? And that's wrong, right? 100%. Yeah, because everything's by the book, it's by the letter. Yeah. They get the ruler out, they measure everything, blah, blah. Oh, there's a toenail off there, there's this, right?
Let the referee manage the game.
But let the referee, like I said, for me, what are the solutions? The solutions are, give the referee the game, right? Yeah. Let there be one scapegoat, whether it's the female ref, male ref, whatever I want to say, he, whoever the referee is, they're in control 100%, right? If they need to use their assistance, it should be for offside, it should be for goal line technology. Did it cross the line or not, right? Yeah. Was that person offside or not? And that's the only fact, right? Everything else is a decision. If the referee should be able to see it, and if I didn't see it, then you've got to make a judgment call, right? But there's too many now that are going wrong because we're going back and we're playing back far enough to stop it. Like you said, we're looking for reasons to stop it, and they're getting it wrong. And the thing is that, growing up football, I'm 40, I've been growing up watching football, you're supposed to hate the referee, right? It makes you feel good when your team loses, you blame someone else, right? You blame someone else, right? But now we're blaming VAR, right? Because, again, when it goes against you, you're blaming them, right? If you just make it down one person, it's their decision. It's easier to handle that way, right? It's human error, right? But now we've got all the computers and they're still getting it wrong. So
unbelievable.
They're proving that technology doesn't make it better.
Do you know why? Because it's the Muppets behind it that are managing it, basically. Yeah. So the guys that are actually managing the technology don't know football, don't know this game. So it should be very clear, half a leg, foot offside, boom, that's offside.
Yep.
And if it's hard
to tell, you let them go.
100%. Yeah. To the advantage, the rub of the green
for the attacking team. Yeah. Oh, mate,
because we want to promote excitement.
As a Glasgow Rangers fan, we've always had a chip, and so have the Celtic fans. When you're winning the leagues, the team that's not, it's because the refs are all Celtic fans, right? Or the refs are all Rangers fans, opposite, right? And now it's the VAR. The fans will just move on to blaming someone else, right? But if it's detrimental to the game, aka it's slowing it down, there's less goals now, everyone's angry, right? And then they're not using VAR for some things. Like, why didn't they use it for that when they're using it for this? So again, there's just no clear and right rules on how to use it. So they probably should get rid of it and just keep the goal line technology until we're at a position maybe in 10 years' time or 20 years' time where it's automated and it's perfect, right? Yeah. But at the moment, it's just a guy with a TV screen at the moment who is less of a referee, or he'd be on the pitch being the referee, and he's now got all the control, and it's taken it out of the referee's hands, and he's like, beautiful, I'm not getting any blame now, I'll just go to VAR, right? And now you've got a less qualified referee upstairs watching it on the TV, and he's getting it wrong as well, he or she, it's usually he, but it's, anyway, it's rubbish. I don't, like I said, show me a man that likes VAR, and I'll show you a guy that doesn't like football.
100%, mate. I mean, ultimately, you want to simplify it. You're either offside or not. If there's been a reckless tackle, if the referee has not seen it, then someone can,
an elbow off the ball, a fight off the ball.
Someone can get a red card
definitely. There's a stamping or an elbow or something, like a Zidane headbutt that no one saw. That should get punished, right? I agree. agree, but not. What was his thumbnail offside?
15 minutes later, everything looks worse slow-mo.
100%. And it's ruined. We said it's ruined rugby. It's ruined rugby league. Video refs is not the future. But listen, we'll move on to another positive discussion.
A lot of off-field controversy.
Everton's 10-point deduction. Is it fair?
It's not fair, mate. Look,
I agree.
As much as the Scousers, and I'll certainly be one to give them a bad rap at the best of times. The one thing they have done in this occasion, when you think about what insolvency or going to administration means.
Well, you think the Scousers would be good at insolvency, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. It means that ultimately you're having to let go of a lot of people who are going to go unpaid, need work. The fact that they've avoided that, ultimately what they've had to do over the last 12 to 18 months is work very closely with the FA on the financials of the business or the club.
Yeah.
And they've been working in conjunction with the FA, and they've then received a 10-point deduction when going into administration gives you a 9-point reduction. And while that might sound trivial, we all know at the end of the season, and Everton.
Well, 1 point could be vital. They've stayed up in less than point in the past.
100%, mate. So Everton's track record over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years have been a points gold dust at the moment. So
the one thing I would say is came at the right part of the season because they're on a good run of form. They're still not bottom of the league even with that 10-point deduction, and it looks like it's galvanised them from a locker room perspective. They know they're not they're not in the bottom 3 teams in the league.
Yeah.
There are at least 3, maybe 4 worst teams, and they can. And even though we both had them to get relegated at the start of the season, you can tell that the manager's done a great job.
The thing that's worse is that United got them this weekend.
No, exactly, because the dogs of war this week. It's normally Arsenal that get them in these kind of things. Arsenal normally get them straight after they sack the coach and we get thumped. And they're a bogey team anyway, certainly up at Goodison. But you wouldn't. I would say probably the hardest team you want to play this week is Everton. So I'm delighted to know that it's Man United that playing them.
Well, funny enough, again, years gone by, Goodison's always a tough place. It reminds me of the old Highbury with the team. Fans sit right on the pitch,
and they've got one of the best supports.
But
fans are brilliant.
They've actually had a poor record at home this season and actually played better away from home, which is
that's maybe because there's been this growing angst, like get the board out and all that stuff, right? And you've seen that with Man U over the years. That there's been certainly ebbs and flows of when there's been real hatred towards the Glazers and big demonstrations, and they've had a poor league home record, and they had a better, certainly under Solskjaer, a better away record.
Yeah.
Every club that wants to be successful needs to be good at home. As simple as that.
100%.
But I wouldn't want to be playing Everton this week. But I do think it's unfair. I think that the main sponsor was a gas company from Russia that had to pull out because of the war, and they had 2 years with no season tickets, and they still were only, I think, 30 or 40 million shy. They did everything in their power to try and fix it, and boom, they're not one of the big 6, so they've been punished. And God help the big 6, the Chelseas and the Cities and the Newcastles and the Spurs who have slight irregularities with some signings or some let's say overdrafts or whatever, some dodgy sponsors. Like Man City have on record emails that they're public domain now about, we'll just move 40 million into this account. Yeah. Now, if you're losing 10 points for 40 million and they've got emails saying we'll just move 40 million into this account, then City are in for a big one eventually. Yeah. But because they are the richest club in the world, one of the richest, because they have the lawyers like Monty Burns has got, they will drag it out until they've got 10 in a row in the league and probably 15 Champions Leagues, and then they'll get them all taken off them, which again is bad for football. 100%. The one thing I would say I like about this Everton 10-point deduction, not that it's fair, that it was swift, right? It hasn't gone on 20 more years. It hasn't, right?
Yeah, I think half the point on that is because I think it's actually Prince William, who's King Charles. I'm not sure who actually announced it, but certainly one of the Royals has announced the introduction of an independent regulator. So I think the FA are also trying to show, look, we do have some authority. We can sort of hold our own. Obviously, they've not shown any inclination on that before. But
I feel for Everton, but like I said, I do think there's definitely there's timing for it. Like, well, you've got 10 points in the bag at the moment. Now we'll do it. We'll get you out of jail. You now also know what you need to get. You're back in relegation zone, but you know what you need to get, right? But whereas if you do it at the end, if you do it in May, and they're only 9 points out of relegation, right? Then they're absolutely gutted, right? You do it now. I think no one's going to care too much. I mean, apart from like the Burnleys now and the Leeds and the Leicesters that are going, well, if you'd done it last year, then we're still in the Prem, right? Or the year before, then we're still in the Prem. So there's a lot of worms that's got to be dealt with. But like I said, I'm more interested to see when Chelsea and City and those kind of clubs will have their day in court. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah. Right, next one, another positive one. Another positive one. So we started off on a roll, but Pooch, you would like to discuss Man United. You are the Man U expert. What do you think? How's the season going? And where do you fix it? Where do you keep it going?
How do you want to fix a great season, mate?
Yeah.
Don't fix something that isn't broken.
Yeah, just keep it going. Keep it going. Keep the Glazers in charge.
Keep
signing 80 million wingers from Brazil.
Yeah, exactly. And when the stadium falls down whilst you're about to score a worldie, a piece of the roof hits you on the head, we can blame someone else. But look, United, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever way you look at it, being certainly the biggest club in the UK, are constantly in the news. I think you'll get a lot of rumours. Everything's blown up to epic proportions.
Oh, because it matters more, right? When you've got the biggest club with the biggest fans and the biggest draw clickbait on the internet now. 100%. You just have to name the word Man United, right? Yeah. And everyone wants to go, oh, who we linked with? Who we linked with? Yeah. You're not linked with him. You're not getting him. And Mbappe's not going to you, right? But
I told you, I've said like literally. I think when we discussed who United might sign off season a couple of years ago, I was like, mate, it's impossible to know with United because we're linked with about 50.
Oh, it's the same in Scotland. Like the back page used to be certainly in Scotland, Celtic Rangers money. They were linked to everyone each week, each day, and you loved reading it because imagine if he came, right? Oh, wow. No, they never come. One in a blue moon comes, right? Like,
you're bound to get one of them because when you've got
you're like 1,000. Yeah. But Man U must be harsh because realistically, you could sign them all, right? But we're not allowed to score 1,000 players, right? But I get that. But I mean, as far as the season's going, obviously results haven't been there all over the season, but they're on a decent run in the Prem at the moment. I think five of the last 6 wins. They have played rubbish. I'm not necessarily they've played rubbish. The teams they've played are rubbish, is what I mean. They've had an easy run in the last 5
The eye test doesn't fail, mate. The stats will say that they're the form team in the league. The eye test doesn't fail. What I'll do is I'll sort of run through what I think have been the really good points, and then we'll sort of slowly move in. Unfortunately,
let's keep it short.
These are sort of Ten Hag obviously related. That's where the buck stops for most football clubs, other than United. Given that the Glazers obviously
10 Hag 5 wins.
Yeah, so look, I mean, when he started, he had the first couple of games that were shockers. Recovered well, ran with the team, really got the players on side and the fans certainly. Mm-hmm. Made hard calls. Shaw started, had a couple of poor games. Malacia came in. Soon as he had a poor game. This is last season, yeah. As soon as he had a poor game, Shaw was back in. The tactical changes, though, within that, not only good game, poor game, you're out scenario, but also the tactical changes between moving Shaw into centre half.
Which was a masterstroke. He had a great end to the season playing that. One of the few tactical things he's done really well is, and again, for the 18 months he's been the coach, they haven't looked like a team that's going to lose 5 or 6 goals. Now, they have lost. I mean, they lost 7 against Liverpool. You love me saying that. I say it every week. But they don't look vulnerable on the back, right? But then in a tight game, you go, it's 0-0. The old Man U, the Fergie days, nag a 1-0. And they've done that a few times, to be fair. They did it against Luton, they did it against Wolves and stuff like that, right? But they've been susceptible letting in just that one. And then because they're so weak up front at the moment, that one might be enough to actually stop them getting the win. Like the new Fergie's team and old Man U's team, Solskjaer's team in particular, would score 2 or 3 a game. Solskjaer just couldn't keep it back clean at the back. So that you'd be in some great games with PSG, 4-3s and stuff like that, and those games, ding-dongs, brilliant. But that's not good for your heart. Ten Hag looks like he's got the tactics from a defensive coach perspective. I haven't seen it enough yet to say he's got it from an attacking perspective, but does he have the personnel so we can talk about that?
100%, yeah. I mean, so if we're talking about tactics up front last year, I mean, this will certainly be a finger pointing at the Glazers, the fact that we had to bring in Weghorst. Played 9 to really do what probably Jackson's doing. Look, he's slightly more skillful for Chelsea, but ultimately he's
and he's 20.
Yeah, but he's pressurising. He's pressurising the defenders, and then equally, Weghorst then came and played 10 at times, where he played a little bit deeper, and then Rashford would go up front. So
I liked Weghorst as a signing because they were desperate. They needed a player. They brought in a player who couldn't have loved Man U more, who was a big unit, put himself about, and really cared about the club. But there's a difference. You could play you up top, who loves Man United, right? Cares about them and put himself around.
Yeah.
Man United deserves better quality.
It's awful. That goes down to how the Glazer runs.
Yeah, that's not Ten Hag's fault.
But I mean, the substitutions Ten Hag made last year seemed to almost always pan out. Any time he brought someone on, they seemed to impact the game, and we got a result for the most part. Probably the last 5-6 games, it was probably we were petering out because of how far we'd gone. So that again is another pro.
Yep.
As far as I think for a team that was probably thin across the ground in terms of squad depth.
Yep.
I really think we went deep in most competitions.
Yep. You did. You won a trophy. You came third in the league.
Yeah.
Should have gone further than Seville in the Europa League, which again we've discussed that in the past. That was a shocker.
Yeah.
2-0 up and got the 2-each draw, and that killed you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give him a pass. I think I gave him an A- last year. This year we're talking about now. I get with Ronaldo, but again we need to move on. We need to talk about this year, right? Well, because I actually think last year, considering it was his first season, he done amazing. This season he's got a year and a half of experience, and it doesn't seem to be any better, right? Now we can all talk about the Glazers and again the lack of finance and the roof falling in and all that stuff, but that is an excuse. Has he gone backwards from a tactician perspective, or is it a lack of talent on the field? Because it's the same players. Now he's in the season in the summer he didn't have a chance to buy real quality, but he still spent over $100 million. He got Mount. Oh, actually 180 million, right? He got Mount, Onana, and Højlund, right?
Yeah.
Overpaid for Højlund because he's one for the future, and that's Man United. You overpay for everyone, but 180 million in the squad doesn't look better, right? Agree?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, look, ultimately, I think we discussed it last year in terms of our sort of school report reviews of United last year. The style of play was very pragmatic. I was getting the job done.
Yep.
We were thin across the ground, getting wins. You give him a tip of the cap with the idea that this year we were going to really improve on that. Signing of Mason Mount, the idea was Casemiro is going to play deep, and we're going to have 2 number 8s in both Bruno and Mount.
Yep.
Play more possession-based football.
But with Mount, you've got that guy who's willing to try it back, and it allows Fernandes not to try it back, right?
I mean, look, you suppose obviously the whole idea that especially in modern football is defend as a team, but I know.
But I mean, it allows Fernandes a little bit more of a leeway because he is more of an attacking threat than he is a defensive threat. But that hasn't worked out because Mount's been injured, so you've been a bit unlucky with injuries.
Well, 100%. So that's certainly a negative part. I always tend to think, we'll talk about NFL and certain teams that always seem to get injured. I always think if that happens to you all the time.
Is it the physios? Is it the coaches? Is it the training part?
Well, put it this way. Ten Hag made the comment last year about Arsenal, which they did do. They had a really good run with non-injuries until Saliba got injured.
They all got injured at the same time, and then they fell off a cliff.
But it's like United have an injury record like a fucking, I dare say like a
Try to think of something funny, aren't you?
Well, I was trying to avoid a walk, considering what kind of what kind of times we're in at the moment. But if you get my drift, we're pretty injured. You think about the left side, Malacia, Martinez in defence, and Shaw. That's the total. That's all your left side.
Yeah.
Dallow's not. Dallow's not good enough for right back.
Again, the only thing I would say as a rebuttal to that is this is where Ten Hag gets my flowers, and I think he's done a great job. They have lost all 4 of their top line of defence, and they're keeping clean sheets with Evans, with Maguire. Maguire looks revitalised again, right? I still don't think Onana's a great shot stopper and a great goalie, but they're keeping clean sheets, right? So he's managed to bring it out the bag defensively. His tactics are fantastic. It's still keeping clean sheets or reducing 2 goals to 1 and things like that, right? He's been very, very good at the back despite those injuries. However, you get the same injuries at the top, but he hasn't had the same tactical skills or that kind of wizardry to find the goals. Well, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but I still think...
Because I'm giving him 10 out of 10 for how he's dealt with those injuries at the back. I think they still look solid.
Well, look,
with a bunch of retards. That's not fair, not retards, but with a much weakened defence, he's still churning out clean sheets.
We are weakened, mate, but I mean, it's just a sign of United. I mean, where do you look when you've got? Yeah, had I said at the start of the season, Johnny Evans would be playing ahead of Varane, what would you say?
I'd say I would say I've told you to stay off that crap pit.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I think it's deserved at the moment, and again, this is why Ten Hag is a good manager, because he hasn't gone, I paid 50 million for him, right? He's got 4 Champions League finals, right?
Clickbait will always be 5 times.
I've got to pick the best players who want to play for Man United, and unfortunately, for the last 18 months, and even before that, the other managers, there are players that keep popping up that people say aren't good enough, but then when times are tough, they're your players that you rely on, your McTominays, right? Now your Evans, your Maguires. These guys want to play for Man United. Now, number one thing you need to do is you need to want to play for your club, right? You need to love that club and want to play for them. You can't be showing up going, I'm doing you a favour. I've won a World Cup. I've won 4 Champions League. I played for Real Madrid. That's what Varane looks like.
No, definitely not. I'd say that's certainly in the case of many others, but certainly not Varane. But his legs have gone. His legs have gone.
You don't play him either then.
But you know, to your point about, I do think he's certainly invested from a squad and a team point of view. He hasn't kicked his toys out the cart, being put on the bench. By all rumours, by all accounts, he's taken that on board. And so credit to him. But I think the whole idea of we've gone from pragmatic to being mediocre. I dare say is below pragmatic in terms of style of play. When we're looking at Ange Postecoglou, guys that are having immediate impacts on the style of football, we haven't seen that. So
it's more about identification for me. If I watch Man City, I watch Barcelona, I watch Real Madrid, or I watch Spurs now, very much Arsenal. They have an identity that the coaches put on them. Man United, and he's been very honest to say, we're not going to play like Ajax anymore. It's a different world. We need to be.
But that's why you
hired. We need to be more direct.
But that's why you hired.
I hear that, but I do like his honesty. But at the same point,
he's dodging the question.
He's dodging the question because he doesn't have an identity.
Yeah.
And again, it may come from the Glazers, and he's not been able to get the players he wants, and instead he's getting loads of 3rd picks and 4th picks rather than 1st picks. That might be the case. However, a good coach rolls with the punches like Ange Postecoglou's doing for Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Again, they will fall off a cliff because they're going to get injuries and they might end up falling at the top 4. It's been a wonderful honeymoon period for him.
Yeah.
And he looks like the governor, he looks like the king. But the one thing I do like about him is he still stamps his authority. Down to 9 men, still playing the high press. Even though letting 4 goals in, you look like a moron for doing it. You've got to respect his mantra, right? You've got to respect that that's the way he plays.
Yeah.
And now teams coming up against him, now he's going to play that way. And it gives him an ace in the hole because he goes, right, they're expecting us to play that way. Now I can just tweak it a little bit. And then we get them that way. So you gain a lot from being balls deep, as I would call it, putting 2 feet in front, right, and going, this is how we're going to play. I think Ten Hag has kept his cards way behind his chest for far too long, to the fact that fans don't know. And again, when you look at the team and you go, he would be a great player in that system. There's no one in the world you'd say right now would be a great player in that system because you don't know what the system is.
But the thing is,
everyone says if you said, Mbappe would just fit into that number 9 role right now. Now Mbappe would obviously fit into that number 9 role because he's an amazing football player. But you're not going to go, he's the perfect player for that system. Whereas if you look at Klopp 4 or 5 years ago, you got Firmino's he's the sixpence in that team.
Yeah.
Right? He drives everything plays off of him. Right? So you look at another player and you go, oh, he's a Firmino. He'd be great in that system. At the moment, Man United's system is so unidentifiable that you couldn't even look as a scout and go, he would be great in there. They're just actually looking for good football players rather than players that suit the system.
Sure, but I mean,
surely first of all you have to name your system and stick to it and play with your philosophy.
Mate, the thing we're going to quickly rattle it down to, and I'll speak about a couple other points. Recruitment, for instance, only players that United that Ten Hag has either coached against or coached. I mean, for the world's biggest football team,
you can't just keep hiring your mates.
Yeah. Well, and I don't put that down to him. I put that down to the fact that Manchester United does not have a director of football.
Yep.
Ancelotti doesn't dictate.
I know.
Ancelotti doesn't dictate Real Madrid's coaching.
Poch has zero to do with Chelsea's signings. Yeah. I hear that. That's the way the world works. I'm sure Pep has less to do with it than we think he has.
100%.
Right? But the old days of Wenger and Fergie, they were in control. They were in control 100%.
Klopp's not identifying a Kanji.
No.
They're going, this is him.
Yeah.
This is what we like. What do you think? And they're getting buy-in. But they're bringing it to him.
Yep.
I must say, I am a little bit concerned about, whilst I really like the hard approach, because I definitely think discipline needed to come into United.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Sancho, for a guy that can't apologise for what he's done, the guy's obviously a spoiled brat, as far as I'm concerned. But there is a little bit of a one-dimensional sort of authoritative style with Ten Hag, and I think what people don't maybe recognise from Fergie's days, he went from that very authoritative style back in the day, like all managers used to be really hard in terms of that sort of dictatorship, to then a wonder kid like Ronaldo coming in that needs an arm around the shoulder and needs to be a little whisper in the ear.
Yep. He definitely softened as a coach. A great example of Fergie was they won the European Cup Winners' Cup with Aberdeen against Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And on that was a Thursday night, and on the Saturday they had to play in a Scottish Cup final. They beat Rangers 1-0. And on they interviewed, obviously, the old days, sticking a mic right under you right at the start, you're not prepped.
Yeah.
And he just tears into his team. He said everyone was shit apart from two players, Willie Miller and Alex McLeish, who's the centre-backs, right, who kept the clean sheet. And he goes, we've let our standards drop today. You've just won the double, mate, the treble, because they've won the league as well. It's like, you've just won the European Cup against Real Madrid, Cup Winners' Cup, but then you've just went 3 days later with no turnaround and beat a good Rangers team in the Scottish Cup final. And you're, because of that, like you said, dictatorship way, because he was standards, and because he didn't play well, but they still won, he wasn't willing to drop that, right? Now, he improved as a person, probably gained some empathy as a.
He moved with the time.
Yeah, of course, because he had to, right? But like I said, Ten Hag is probably still in that old mentality at the moment where it's my way or the highway. Now, rightly or wrongly, I think Man United, when you're at that type of club, you need to run with an iron fist or they'll just take the piss.
Yeah.
But I think, unfortunately for Sancho, he's just the straw that brought the camel's back. I think there's been a lot of that with Pogba, even Fernandes. There's been a lot of crappy behaviour. And I think Sancho's just been the one that's been... He's got the wrath, he's just snapped with him. Now that they're at loggerheads, and I think it's easy to say sorry and move back. So it's moronic that he's not. Yeah. But again, the guy's on 350 grand a week. He's way overpaid. He's way underperforming.
Put it this way, 100%. What is he? Has he ever impacted United?
Not once.
He's atrocious.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's up there in my top 5 all-time biggest disappointments.
Yeah. If you went and he was literally man of the match every second, third game.
Yeah.
And he did that, you'd be going. Now, don't get me wrong. I still believe in principle around it's right.
Of course, but Cantona's allowed to kung fu kick an old woman in Crystal Palace. And you build up your leeway with the coach, right?
100%, and he's done none of that.
Exactly.
So I think the recruitment, maybe the one-dimensional piece. We've discussed the sort of tactics and being pragmatic. There's no sort of identity. And look, I think at the end of the day, whenever things happen like this, I think, I know you've discussed potentially Ten Hag getting the sack before Christmas. From my point of view, while United fans will have a lot of idiots like any other club, and whilst, again, we've got more fans than most, the United fans are certainly realistic in the sense that just bringing the next manager in, expecting different results after post-Fergie era, we've seen what the issue is. If you've got a company and it's constantly underperforming, you don't pick the middle management and go, right, middle management, you're out. No, you pick the CEO, chairman, and the board. And a list of company.
But the problem is with that is they're in control.
Yeah.
So they're harder to get rid of, right? Because they're at the top.
We'll see what happens.
And it's much easier to get rid of middle management in any walk of life, right? When there's a turn down in the banks, the financial world, the middle management loses jobs. Yeah, of course it is.
Anyone with half a brain knows. So
but I did say, my hot take was a few weeks ago, if they lost to Copenhagen and Fulham, I think he would have got sacked, but he beat Fulham, last minute goal, right? They then beat Luton 1-0, and all of a sudden you're churning out results and you're getting all these things again, clickbait stuff going. He's actually won more points than Arsenal, Man City, not in the last 5 weeks ago. You played Wolves, you played Luton.
Sometimes
anyway,
sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and go, actually, well, look,
you take
we're okay.
You take the wins, but
we are facing stiff opposition.
What he's done is winning those games that he had to win. He's won them, and it's gotten more time. It's bought him more time. But again, I have said quite clearly that I'd like Ten Hag, and I don't think there's anyone out there better than him to bring in. I just know the Man U way, and I know that if things get really bad, that they're not going to sack themselves. So they will sack the coach because it's the easier option, and that's all I've said when I'm saying about Ten Hag. I don't want him to get sacked. Yeah. I don't think he deserves to get sacked, but he will get sacked. Now, not before Christmas, because I don't think... Oh, he still could, because like I said, my hot take is that I don't think Man U win another game before the end of the year. Right? I think they've got...
Are you putting a shoey on that?
I'll put a shoey on that. Okay. They've got Forest and Bournemouth, who are both winnable games, right? But Everton away is a shocker of a game to have this weekend, right?
Yeah.
They get 3 points out of that, they've done amazing, right? Because that's the dogs of war. They're coming up against everything. The public, the fans, like karma. Absolutely everyone wants Everton to win that game. And then they've got a terrible run, a real tough run. They've got Newcastle away. They've got a couple of big teams as well. And like I said, they've got Forest away on the 30th of December.
We don't need to know the schedule.
No, I'm just saying they have a tough schedule, but they do. They're Bournemouth and Forest. They're Bournemouth and Forest, right? And I'm just saying they're the two teams that I'm looking at that potentially Man U can win.
Yeah.
But if he loses all of them, he will be gone before the new year, right? Because you can't lose the next 6-7 games. And again, I don't agree with it because there is no one sitting there just waiting, going, I'm better, I'm ready, I've got philosophy and I'm the best coach and we'll look at my record. No one's better than Ten Hag. But just knowing how much of a shit show the upstairs is, they're not going to take responsibility. They're going to sack the guy below them.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's move on, mate. We'll move on to the to your team, the Dirty Gooners, in just a sec.